The original Watch Dogs was not without its problems. Car handling wasn't great and in fact was a bit floaty. The missions were pretty generic and lacked variety, and the hacking was the main concept of the game, but it was very simple and, after time, unrewarding. Watch Dogs 2 aims to fix those issues after being fortunate enough to sit down with the PS4 version of the game for a few hours. I'm happy to say that I think it delivers on most of them. The second game is set in San Francisco, and that alone just brings a lighter and brighter colour palette over the original game, which was set in a dark and dingy version of Chicago. Of course, no one has learnt their lesson from last time, and CTOS is back. This time it's CTOS 2.0. How Bloom Corp managed to get their CTOS system in a new city after practically bringing Chicago to its knees in the first game is beyond me, but we'll let that one slide. They must have some sort of PR genius on their books, obviously. In the game you play as Marcus Holloway, who is part of a hacking group called DedSec. They aren't very keen on the CTOS system monitoring and manipulating citizens, so their goal is to destroy it. Mr. Robot, anyone? So that's the premise for the game, but what's changed and been improved upon from the first outing? Well, let's start with the hacking. After all, that's what the game's about. In the first Watch Dogs, hacking was reasonably limited and pretty basic. In Watch Dogs 2 though, you've got way more options at your disposal, and it makes for a more fun experience. You can still hack any NPC you come across, but now if you hold down the button, you get 4 options. I could distract them, call the police on them, basically getting them arrested with fake evidence, which can cause some pretty funny moments. I can put a gank hit on them, or the last option was to either steal money or listen in on their phone call, depending on the NPC that you come across. The same applies to hacking objects. Say you hack an aircon unit or something similar, you can set up a proximity attack on it so that any enemy that walks through will get a shock, and even combine it with a second option to make a noise aimed at attracting them in. So they come close, hit the proximity and get shocked, or of course you could just blow it up. This applies to your throwable objects and to your drone and RC car. Toys. This time around you've got some cool bits of kit. The drone can be popped out to scope out an area before an assault, hack objects, set traps, spot enemies and alike. The RC car is the same, but it can get to harder to reach places and has an extending arm to hack consoles and doors. Missions will require you to use a combination of both to make your life easier. The hacking doesn't stop there though. Oh no, everyone's a hacker. In Watch Dogs 2 you can even hack cars. Every car in the game can be hacked. If you're standing near a car you can press the hack button, and then your 4 hack options are to move the car forward, back, left or right. It's quite tricky, but it is a good distraction and it's pretty fun to mess around with. It does have a purpose in certain missions as well. What's awesome is that every hack has a fast hack. For instance, when you're in a car and you're driving along, you can hack other cars to move them out of the way. A simple tap of the shoulder button on PS4 and the car in front will perform a suggested action, usually to swerve out of the way. It makes car chases very interesting. I even hacked a recovery truck and the ramp at the back came down, allowing me to fly over it. Pretty neat. It's not limited to cars either. Construction lifts, cranes, forklifts, there are certain things that can be hacked that will come in very useful in missions. When you're driving, you can also still do all the things that you remember from Watch Dogs 1. You can set manhole cover traps, you can change traffic light states, even look back and hack your pursuing cars. Combine that with the ability to hack cars on the fly and you can make some cool epic gameplay moments. Speaking of the driving, what's it like? Because obviously it's very important in a game like this. Well, it's better than Watch Dogs 1, I can definitely say that. Cars do now have more weight to them, but it's very much an easy to handle arcade-based driving model. Cars turn sharply, won't really spin out on you, and they're pretty easy to control. I think it suits the type of game that this is. It's not a simulation game, it's easy driving designed to be accessible. Motorbikes are in the game as well, but I did feel the physics on the bikes to be a bit too bouncy at times. If you made a big jump and landed hard, your bike would sometimes just bounce and you would lose control. And just to let you know, you can now also shoot while driving, something that was missing from the first game, but you can only fire off a pistol, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I also got to experience some of the races in the game and the bonus stuff. kind of side things to do. I tried out drone racing and motocross racing. Drone racing was good fun, a bit tricky at first, but cool when you got the hang of it. There were some really nicely made races as well, one which went around the Golden Gate Bridge. The bike racing was okay, but like I said, the bouncy bike physics made some of the races a bit harder than I think they needed to be. I did ask if this sort of thing will be in multiplayer, but I was told right now it's just single player. I do hope that that changes and these sort of races can be made into a multiplayer experience, because that's where a lot of the longevity comes from other games like Grand Theft Auto. As you all know, loads of people are still playing GTA 5 today because of the races. So Watch Dogs 2 is all about your following. Your progress in the game is really tracked with the followers that you have on social media. Just think about it as like a pretend version of Twitter. So doing cool things, completing missions, races, even visiting tourist areas and taking selfies all goes towards your follower count. Just make sure that you use the right Instagram filter. This really fits with the theme of the game, young hip hackers. Even the game's menus and systems are all built into your phone. It works pretty well actually. A lot of games of this type use a similar system. And on your phone you can find missions, your map, and download the other game related apps. There's even tourist apps and a Shazam-like app that you can use if you hear some music in the game and want to know what the song is called. There's some scope here as well to add more interesting things down the line. You'll also be glad to know that there aren't any towers or areas that you need to open up like in all of the other Ubisoft games. You've got an open world and you're free to explore as you wish. There's actually a lot that we haven't even covered yet as well. Co-op is in the game, but unfortunately I wasn't able to capture any of that mode just yet, but I have played it and talked about it in my E3 video. Also some cool multiplayer modes that they've announced, and bounty mode in particular looks like fun. And you know, I hope that the missions will be more varied compared to Watch Dogs 1, because that was one of my main gripes with that game. They just got a bit too samey, go here, hack that, the end. But in Watch Dogs 2, the theme of the game really opens it up for way more content possibilities, so I hope they use that and run with it. The missions that I played here felt good, but of course, that's a very small sample size compared to the full game. So for me, it's really impossible to say how good it's going to be in the end game, but I will say that there are more ways of going about missions this time, and a lot more emphasis has been put on actually planning ahead before you rush in there. You can actually go through the entire game gung-ho and shoot everyone, or you can play the game entirely without killing anyone. Melee feels good. Marcus has a homemade billiard ball on a piece of cord which he uses to devastating effect, and you also come equipped with a taser. If you plan your missions well enough with your toys and use your taser and melee attacks well, you can go through missions, like I said, with 0 casualties. Remember though, they will wake up after some time. If you want to go in guns blazing though, you can, but I wouldn't say it's easy. The game can be pretty unforgiving in terms of you taking damage, but the gunplay itself felt good with the few weapons that I had a chance to play with. Lastly, visually the game looks good. It's running on PS4 here. I would say it's a step up from Watch Dogs 2, but you aren't going to be super blown away by it. In fairness, I think that's a good thing, you know. I'm glad that we didn't see some crazy visuals like we did for the first game at the E3 trailer, and then you actually load the game and it looks completely different. This time from the get-go though, we've seen what the actual game looks like. You're seeing it here, and I think that it does look quite nice. In Watch Dogs 1, you really didn't care for Aiden very much, and that's a problem because he was the main character. He was just a bit grumpy, a bit unlikable, I think is the right word. The characters in Watch Dogs 2 are way more charismatic and bright, and it seems that the dialogue is a lot better as well as more witty. Just the nature of the game, the setting, the location, I think it opens up to way more possibilities. When I was watching a cutscene and then driving to a mission, it felt a lot more like GTA than the last game did, and honestly, that's a big compliment for the game in my book. So that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this early impressions of Watch Dogs 2. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.